This video is going to be to explain how to use and follow the meal plan. There are going to be various different meal plans depending on which one you had received, which was customized according to your starting point, according to your goals, according to the time frame that I want to have you go on this meal plan. So the one that you received may or may not look identical to this. In most cases, it probably will not. What is going to be identical is the layout of the meal plan and the way you're going to follow it. The only things, for the most part, that are going to be slightly different is if you take a look at the charts down here, which are the pinwheels, and the portions which are in them. For example, the ones in this particular meal plan indicate that each one of these meals is going to have one portion of the items that they represent. And I'm going to go over that in a moment. So I'm going to clear that out. And here we go. So at the top on the left in blue, these are all of your protein sources. Now, just to make things clear, because this question always comes up, for the sake of adherence and for the sake of avoiding mistakes, for the time frame that we're going to be following this specific meal plan, I'm going to ask you to not consume anything that is not specifically implied in writing on this meal plan. Can't tell you how often I get an email saying, hey, so-and-so is not on the meal plan, can I have it? Or a variation of this and this is not on the meal plan, can I have it? At the end of the day, you're an adult and you could do whatever you'd like. But for the purposes of adherence and following the meal plan, the answer is always going to be no. So if it is not directly listed in these columns up here, you cannot have it while you are adhering to this meal plan. And if you did, you simply did not adhere on that day. So notate that. Now, protein, all the way on your left, is very important. It's always going to be here in blue. Your fats are always going to be in yellow. Your carbohydrates are always going to be here in orange. And then your vegetables are here in green. I'm going to start with the vegetables because I want to point out something because this category differs from the others. The other categories essentially give you all of the inclusive products that you're going to be able to choose from. Vegetables, on the contrary, are the exclusions. So if you take a look what it says here, it says any vegetable except what is listed in this area. So that means that if it is listed here specifically, you cannot eat it for this meal plan. And it says here, stick with green and leafy veggies, okay? So that is for your vegetable section only. And you'll notice that down here, all of these meal plans contain a vegetable serving. What is a serving for a vegetable? Right up here it is listed. It is a fist size. So if you close your fist, that is a portion of vegetables. I will say this, if you find that you are hungry at any point, increasing the volume of green leafy vegetables is okay for satiation purposes. That is not where you're going to get into trouble. That is not where you're going to fail on your nutrition. So if you must, increasing your fiber intake via increased vegetables, specifically leafy greens, not starches, because remember, we'll get to the carbs in a minute, and that's where the potatoes and other stuff fall in. But specifically leafy greens, you can increase from a fist size to maybe 1.5 fists if you feel that you need more food. That's rarely the case. Oftentimes I hear from people that they're eating a lot of volume. These are quality whole foods on this list. They do make up a lot of volume while not having a lot of density. And I can explain that if you have any questions. Okay, protein. This is your lean protein sources. The numbers here on the left column indicate a serving size. These are not necessarily saying these are the sizes you need to eat. They're just telling you what a unit of protein is. So if you choose to eat chicken breast, skinless, 6 ounces of chicken breast on a food scale represents 1 unit of chicken breast. In this meal, I get to choose 1 unit of protein. So if I wanted to use chicken breast for this unit, 6 ounces would fill this section. If I wanted to use more than one specific protein source, for example, chicken breast and maybe egg whites, 6 egg whites equal 1 unit. Because I am allotted 1 unit of protein for this meal, I can split that by having 3 ounces of chicken and 3 egg whites. This way it's half a unit and half a unit to make up 1 whole unit. So these are already pre-calculated for you. Next, we're going to go over to fats. You'll notice 1 meal here has fats in it, and that is the dinner. This is not as important when it comes to nutrient timing. What I mean by that is if you lead a lifestyle that allows you to eat specific meals at specific times, and you feel that the meal that contains fats, let's just say you're going to go out and choose 2 tablespoons of almond butter as your 1 unit of fats, which is allotted here by this number 1. Let's say this is something you have an easier time doing at lunch because maybe you work a night shift and you don't have that available, or maybe half of a medium avocado is what you choose to use today for your unit of fats. It is okay to substitute this with this. So your fat and your carbohydrates can be swapped only as long as you have the allotment. What that means is you'll notice you have 2 carbohydrate meals and 1 fat meal in this day. Therefore, you cannot say I'm going to have 3 fat meals and no carbohydrates, but you can take that 1 fat little piece of the pie, this third here, and move it over to lunch or move it over to breakfast and then just take the carb and move it over to dinner. So I'm less concerned here with your nutrient timing. I'm more concerned with adherence to portions. And it is important that you hit all of your meals. Do not skip meals. If your goal is to lose weight, do not think that eating less is good. These are already predetermined for your goals, and under eating will leave you in a malnourished environment, which will lower your anabolic activity and start to deteriorate muscle tissue, making your base metabolic rate lower and more difficult to lose fat. Without getting too technical on that, please adhere to the meal plan. Eat all of the food that is on here on a daily basis. Not everyone, by the way, not all meal plans are going to have fat. If you're a smaller, lighter person, which a lot of women may fall into, you may not have a fat allocation because fats are very dense in calories. They're 9 calories per gram, while protein and carbs are only 4. So I'll that's another subject that I want to touch on here to keep this short. But again, make sure that you're adhering 100% here. Carbohydrates, again, these are all 1 unit servings. So on carbs, okay, if I have 1 unit to fill my plate, I can choose 1.5 cups of mashed sweet potato or 1 cup of cooked brown rice. And by the way, you're going to measure your carbs cooked. So a cup of brown rice is going to be cooked after it's been boiled in water, not beforehand, because that will yield a 3-to-1 ratio. So very important thing. I had a client about a year ago who was telling me he can't finish his food. And when I asked him to send me a picture, he had a huge bowl of rice. And I said, how many servings is that? He said, 1. I said, how did you measure? And he said, I poured the dry rice into a measuring cup. And by the time I cooked it, it was 3.5 cups. So please, carbs are always going to be measured cooked. Proteins are the only ones that could be measured raw, but for the sake of safety, I advise you to measure them cooked as well, only because you're not losing too much water on the chicken to make a huge difference. But I would rather you do not handle raw meat and raw poultry for sanitary reasons and avoiding cross-contamination. So feel free to measure everything cooked. It is perfectly fine. Next, we're going to look at the protein shakes. These are good. They're going to help you in between meals. So between breakfast and lunch, you have a shake. Between lunch and dinner, you have a shake. These shakes on this specific meal plan call for 8 ounces of water and 1 scoop of whey. Nothing more. That doesn't mean raspberries, bananas, peanut butter, granola, yogurt. It is simply an 8 ounce of water and 1 scoop of whey. This is specifically calculated into your macronutrient balance, which I've already made according to your specific goals. So please adhere to that. Just to define a scoop of whey, that is a serving, there are different types of whey proteins on the market. Rather than specifically promoting a brand, which I do not do, what I will do is tell you this. What constitutes a serving of whey for me is minimum of 20 grams of protein, a maximum of 10 grams of carbohydrates, ideally less, and a maximum of 2 grams of fats, ideally less. So we want the protein serving to be above 20. We want the carbs under 10, and we want the fats under 10. Okay. Lastly, on the bottom, these are just samples just to show you what something may look like. It doesn't mean you have to eat a meal that consists of all this. But if you look at a sample meal, 111, those are 1 serving of protein. In this case, this individual in the sample chose 6 ounces of tilapia, which is a white fish. It'll tell you here 6 ounces of any white fish. 1 apple, because over here on the carbohydrates, if you look at the bottom, 1 fist-sized piece of fruit constitutes 1 unit of carbs. So they chose that. And then 1 veggie, they put 1 cup of mixed greens, which is about a fist size of that. So that's just sample meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just to give you an idea. You can always email questions. You can always go over this stuff with me if you're confused. This is a basic outline of how to follow this. I will remind you, drink at least 1 ounce of fluid ounces of water, ideally for every pound of body weight. Now that goes for an average individual. If you're overweight, if you weigh, let's say, over 220, 230 pounds, it is okay to go 0.75 to 0.8 ounces of water per pound of body weight, because otherwise you'd have a 300-pound person drinking 2 gallons on a daily basis. You don't quite need that much, but please make sure you're drinking water. It keeps all of your metabolic functions moving in a healthy way. It will help you feel full, and it will help you with fat loss. So drink a lot of water. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Look forward to continuing to work with you on hitting all of your goals. Thank you for watching.